Chapter 1 is the Introduction to Physiology. One thing to note is physiology is quite challenging. One thing that students find difficult is you're asked to recall certain things about chemistry and physics that you may have partially forgotten. You'll need them sometimes in physiology. And so this is challenging, but it can also make physiology fun and interesting. So I think it's worth the challenge. There's also a lot of problem solving that goes on in a physiology class. Part of this involves quantitative problem solving, working with equations and so forth, but also just sort of conceptual problem solving. So your textbook has, to help you with this, you have concept check questions, figure questions, and graph questions within the text itself, as well as at the end of each chapter, there are review questions. And so I've pointed out in the modules the review questions you should be paying attention to. And the answers to all of these questions are found in Appendix A. Okay, so physiology is the study of the function of the body. Physiology is known as an integrative science. And there's a couple reasons for this. One is that to understand physiology, we have to understand phenomena that occur at many different levels, from molecules to cells to tissues to organs. Physiology is also considered to be an integrative science because the organ systems of the bodies don't work in isolation. For the body to function properly, you have to have the integrated action of the various organs working together. A classic example of this would be the body's response to dehydration. When you're dehydrated, your body tries to retain water. So one way it does that is to make urine that's more concentrated. So that's the work of the kidney. At the same time, when you're dehydrated, you feel more thirsty, and so you're stimulated, therefore, to change your behavior. You drink more. This leads to more absorption of water through the gastrointestinal tract. Another example of how physiology is integrated comes up with hypovolemic shock. With hypovolemic shock, someone has lost blood. Therefore, their blood volume is lower than normal. Hypo means lower. In response to this, your cardiac output will increase. This will help to raise your blood pressure. At the same time, certain blood vessels will vasoconstrict. Their diameter of the blood vessels will get smaller. This will help to increase the blood pressure also. And finally, the kidney will produce less urine. This prevents the blood volume from decreasing too much. So all three of these things help to increase blood pressure. Blood pressure is important because we need blood pressure to force blood through the various organ systems, and that's called perfusion, when the blood goes through the various organs. The capillaries within an organ. Okay, so again, another concept that comes up in the chapter 1 is the idea of emergent properties. So complex systems possess emergent properties. An emergent property is a property that is a collection, which is a property which a collection or complex system has, but which an individual members do not have. For example, in chemistry, we can look at saltiness. That's a property of sodium chloride, table salt. But you can't say that sodium on its own or chloride on their own are salty. They certainly don't have that property. So saltiness would be considered an emergent property of sodium chloride. You can also think about water in the same way. You have hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrogen on its own doesn't have the same properties as water, neither does oxygen on its own. But when you put them together, water has very unique properties that allow for life and so forth. So that's, again, an emergent property. And if we look now at biology, or in a biology class, you can think of the heart. It's composed of heart cells. Pumping of the blood by the heart is an emergent property of the whole heart. An individual heart cell can't actually pump any blood on its own. Let me see what else. So integration of function across many levels. I already mentioned this. So in physiology, we do have to think about basic chemistry at the level of atoms and molecules. We think about molecular biology, biochemistry also. Cellular biology. We We think about how tissues work, how organs work, which are collections of tissues. Tissues are basically cells that that are grouped together in terms of having a common function. They're similar, so you could think of many of the cells, for example, in a muscle, and that are involved in contraction. An organ would be something like a muscle. A muscle is more than just the contractile part tissue. It's also has blood vessels. It has nerves that innervate it, and so it's more a muscle, say in your forearm, is not just a tissue. It's actually quite complex, and so it's considered to be an organ. Beyond that, you have organ systems. An example of an organ system would be the whole gastrointestinal system. Starting from the mouth and going down, you just have all these different parts that work together to help you absorb food. At the higher level, you have organ systems that work together to help keep an organism alive, so it's an individual. Then you can, at the higher level, you have population of one species. So you have a group of, say, chimpanzees. And finally, at the highest level, you have ecology. You have ecosystem of different species that work together. And at the highest level, you have a biosphere, in which you have living beings interacting with the inorganic matter and so forth at the highest level. Physiology is very closely related to anatomy. So we'll talk quite a bit about anatomy in this class. It's really impossible to study physiology of the body without understanding some of the underlying anatomy.